What's up guys, Mike from Rockville, and today I'm going to be showing you how to set up your R1200L LED fog machine. Let's get to it. So in front of me is everything that comes with the R1200L fog machine. We got the main unit over here, a wireless remote, a wired remote, the power cable, and then we have this bracket handle. So I'm going to start by putting on the bracket handle. To do that, you're going to grab this piece over here, your main unit, and you'll notice that we have these two knob screws over here. So you're actually going to line up this hole with this hole on the side of the unit, and then you're going to take one of your knob screws and run it straight through, and you're just going to turn it to the right to tighten it into place. And I'm going to do the same exact thing with the other knob screw. Now you can use this as an additional hand handle, as well as the hand handle over here, but this mounting bracket also allows you to hang this from a truss system if you need to. You just need to get a lighting clamp like our LC70. Now the next thing we want to do when we're setting up our R1200L is plug it into power. So I'm going to take the power cable over here. On the back over here, you're going to see where I plug in my power cable. So I'm going to take this end, the female end of my IEC cable, plug it straight in, and then this end is going to go into the wall. Now, if you actually look at the back really quick, when I turn it on, this is going to illuminate to let you know you have power. And a really critical thing about turning on your R1200L is this machine takes anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes to turn on and heat up. So if you have fog fluid in there and you turn it on right away and expect to get it producing fog, it's not going to. It needs to go through that 3 to 5 minute warm-up period. So I'm gonna wait 3 to 5 minutes to let this warm up, and while I do that, I'm actually gonna put fog fluid in there and show you how to do that. So to put fog fluid into our unit, it's very easy to do. All you have to do is loosen the knob right here. Then you're going to need some fog fluid. So I have the Rockville one here, it's the RFJG. I'm just going to pour it straight into the top over here. And on the back of the unit, there's actually a fog fluid level counter, so we know exactly how full our container is. You can see it's already going through that heating period where it's warmed up now. And then remember to just put this on and tighten it back into place. And you want to make sure that this tube is nice and fluid. Now the next thing we want to do is plug in our wired remote so we can begin to start controlling the fog output. Now in order to do that, you're going to take this end of your wired remote and you're actually going to line it up with this part over here that says remote control. And this is a very specific end, it's a proprietary end, so it's only going to go in one way. So you want to line up the pins with the different ports over here. So I'm just going to line it up and push in on it. Great, now I actually have power on my remote so I can begin controlling the output of the fog. Now on your wired remote, you actually have a bunch of different parameters that you can control. So at the top we have our 3 knobs. The yellow knob controls the amount of time between different fog bursts. So if you put it all the way to the right to the maximum, the machine is going to wait the longest amount of time between fog bursts. Now the green knob controls the amount of time that it actually produces that fog. So if you have it all the way down on its minimum, it's going to just put a little burst and then stop. But if I put it all the way to the right to the maximum, it's going to keep outputting fog. And then the red knob controls the actual amount of fog coming out. Is it thick fog or is it thin fog? So all the way minimum is the thinnest amount of fog that we can produce, and all the way maximum is the thickest amount of fog that we can produce. So you can really dial in the settings with these knobs to get one that fits your needs. Now on top of that, we have our 3 colored buttons at the bottom over here to control those parameters. So the yellow button controls the actual timer. So if you have this yellow button in, it's going to work off a timer interval, which means it's periodically going to check what parameters you have set with the yellow and the green knob. So remember, if I have the minimum amount of time between bursts and I have the timer on, it's going to periodically keep shooting out fog in the smallest amount of time possible. If I have the yellow knob set all the way to maximum and I have the timer on, it's going to wait long periods of times between the bursts of the different fog. The red button over here is called continuous fog. So if you have that in, it's going to keep bursting out fog as long as it can, and then cooling down and then bursting out more fog. And then the green button over here is our manual fogging. Basically that allows me to just, with the push of a button, output fog, and then when I let go, it's going to stop outputting fog. So that's just manual control. Whereas the red button is going to just keep going as long as the unit will allow it until you either turn it off or it runs out of that cycle of fog burst. Now on top of the wired remote control, we also have a wireless remote control which allows you to control some of the LED functions. So So if you'll notice at the bottom over here, we have our LEDs, and with these controls on this remote, I can actually control them. So the button labeled 1 is actually going to let me pick a solid color. So I can click it. So we have a red color, a green color, a blue, we have like an amber color, a purple, a turquoise or teal, and then we have a white color, and then if I press it again, it's going to shut off the LEDs completely. So if I wanted to pick the first color like red, I could press that 1 button, it's going to bring up red, and then when I fog, it's actually going to create a really cool pyro effect where it looks like the LED is producing the smoke. Now button 2 on the wireless remote is to put it into sound mode. So if I click it, it's going to go into sound mode, which means whenever sound is present, the LEDs are going to flutter and change. But when you stop talking loud, or if there's not a loud sound, it's going to stay on that 1 LED color. This just makes a really cool effect if you're using it in a live performance or music set. For example, if I'm talking and it's fogging at the same time, it's going to look like everything is changing. Now button 3 on the wireless remote is to put it into strobe mode. So the way the strobe mode is going to work is whatever LED color you have it set to, it's just going to start strobing that. So if I click button 3, it's going to start strobing, which is another cool effect. And then if you want to change the color of the strobe, you press button 1, and then you press strobe button again, which is button 3. It's going to start strobing again. Button 1, strobe. And button 4 on the wireless remote is actually going to control the continuous fogging, much like the red button on our wired remote. So if you click it once, it's going to start the fogging process, and then when you click it again, it's going to stop it. Now on top of the wireless and wired remotes, we actually have even more control with the buttons on the back right below the LED display. So if I click it once, it's going to take me straight to DMX mode, which you'll notice there is a DMX in and out if you want to integrate it into a DMX chain with some lights and a DMX controller. If you click it again, it's going to take you into the P mode, which is actually going to filter through the LEDs on the front, and then you have a range between 0 and 255 to set the speed. 255 being the fastest, so it'll filter the fastest through the LEDs, and the closer to 0 is going to filter slower, so it's going to pause on those LEDs longer. And then we have our L setting. The L is going to show how fast or slow it's actually going to transition, so it's going to be like a fade mode between the different LED colors, and that's going to be the same where it's 0 to 255, so if you set it to 255, it's going to fade much quicker. If you set it closer to 0, it's going to take a long fade process. Then we have a bunch of different various settings. So E is actually a color gradient setting. After E is the sound mode. So you'll see sound on the back, and then it's going to work exactly how we set it into sound mode with the wireless controller. And then the final setting is our F setting, and that's going to control the strobe. So if I go to the F setting, I can have it go either really fast, like 255 on the setting, or really slow, like closer to 0. Now I did mention that this is DMX compatible, and it's a 7-channel DMX, and each of the different channels allow you to control a different parameter, whether it be the continuous fogging or the different brightness of the LEDs. And as I mentioned before, we do have this hole over here, which is to mount it with a lighting clamp like our LC70, and that's so you can trust mount it. A lot of DJs do that, and a lot of people who use it in DMX settings do that. Also remember, we have a safety loop over here, so if you have a safety metal cable, you can loop it through, hang it on the truss so that it's really secure. So hopefully this video showed you how easy it is to set up your R1200L fog machine. But again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support tech team through phone or email. As always, guys, I'm Mike from Rockville. I'll see you next time.